Imagine your son, the one you'd give everything for, suddenly becoming your biggest threat. My child requested funds from me yet again, for the 10th occasion. After my refusal, he unleashed a torrent of abuse. 7 days later, I hit the jackpot and kept it a complete secret. It never occurred to me that my own flesh and blood would endanger my existence. The boy I had poured my entire life into, transformed into someone unrecognizable, lost to substance abuse. Please subscribe and share your location in the comments before we start. The telephone chimed at precisely 8:17 inches the evening. I instinctively recognized Tyler's presence, even prior to checking the screen. My insides clenched with a familiar tension. This sensation arrived predictably whenever my child contacted me lately. "Mother, I must speak with you. It's urgent." His tone carried an artificial urgency, one I had grown accustomed to over the prior 6 months. My eyelids fluttered shut, my grip firm on the handset. "Tyler, is everything all right?" "I truly need to discuss something with you face to face," he responded, evading my inquiry. "May I come by, please?" My gaze drifted to the kitchen counter, where my financial obligations lay scattered, an electricity bill with its stark red overdue notification. The property assessment I had postponed addressing. At 65 years old, my educator's retirement income barely met fundamental needs. "Certainly," I uttered, the word feeling cumbersome on my tongue. "I will prepare some hot beverages." As I waited, I lifted the framed picture from my fireplace mantel. It showed Tyler at 16, smiling broadly in his baseball attire. His gaze still contained that brilliance, a time before university, before he quit, before the unknown gloom enveloped him, which he wouldn't speak about. I gently traced the contours of his face. "Where did you disappear to, my dear?" The chime echoed half an hour subsequent. Opening the entry, I found Tyler standing with that beguiling grin, so reminiscent of Richard, my former spouse who had abandoned us for his assistant 27 years prior. "Hello, Mother." He embraced me quickly, his posture stiff. I detected a subtle tobacco aroma, despite his pledge to stop. "Enter," I invited, moving aside. "The coffee is prepared." He walked restlessly around my compact parlor rather than settling down, repeatedly observing the framed pictures on the wall. "Your home appears nice. Did you alter anything?" "Just repositioned the furnishings," I fabricated. No modifications had occurred for ages. "So," he stated, at last sinking onto the sofa, "I have exciting developments." My spirit momentarily brightened. "Oh yes, this incredible career prospect, a marketing role, with an excellent firm," I affirmed, permitting a glimmer of optimism. "That sounds magnificent. The issue is," he explained, leaning forward, resting his forearms on his knees. "I require a small amount of assistance to achieve it. My flat has encountered difficulties. The property owner is threatening removal due to some confusion regarding payment, and my vehicle stopped functioning." My optimism vanished. "Tyler, I only require $3,000 to rectify everything," he rapidly proceeded. "My employer assured me a bonus which failed to materialize. It's just for a short period, I promise." 3,000, surpassing earlier requests. I inhaled deeply. "I do not possess that amount, Tyler. I apologize." His expression tightened almost imperceptibly. "You possess funds." "I have $200 saved," I responded softly, opening my handbag and extracting my account summary. "Observe. Here, following the medical expenditures for my knee operation, nothing remains." He barely acknowledged the document. "What about plastic money? They're completely spent." "Good heavens, Mother." He rose suddenly. "How can you be so inept with finances? Father always claimed you were useless with funds." The remarks pierced me. Richard had, in fact, voiced that sentiment, despite my holding 2 occupations after he departed, leaving us with insufficient child support for food. "I can offer you 200, I stated, maintaining a calm tone, "and I located details about a complementary therapy facility. They might assist." His voice escalated abruptly. "You believe I require assistance?" Are you labeling me insane? No. Tyler, I'm concerned for you. Your emotional volatility, the continuous financial difficulties, these narratives that simply don't make sense. There it is. He flung his arms wide. You were never present for me, constantly at your job, perpetually exhausted, perpetually too occupied for your own progeny. And now you're anxious. I recoiled as he struck a picture from the small stand, an image of me with my fifth-grade students from 8 years prior. The border split on the timber floor. Tyler, please compose yourself. You pitiful elderly female, he growled, his features contorted into an unfamiliar guise. You will expire in solitude. You comprehend that. And you merit it. He advanced towards me, his hands balled up. For the initial moment in my existence, I felt terror towards my offspring. Depart. I breathed, then with greater volume. Leave my dwelling. Tyler gazed at me, breathing heavily. Then he violently struck the partition near my head, sending fragments of plaster onto the floor covering. Without further utterance, he departed furiously, closing the door with such force that the panes vibrated. In the immediate quiet, I sank against the wall to the ground, my entire frame shaking. Something drew my notice. My handbag on the countertop lay partially ajar, slightly dislodged from its prior spot. I moved across and inspected its contents. My backup credit card remained, but upon examining the kitchen compartment, the extra key I concealed had vanished. As I remained amidst the remnants of my son's fury, a chilling realization overtook me. The boy I nurtured had departed, and the individual who had taken his place might genuinely cause me harm on a future occasion. For 3 days subsequent to Tyler's abrupt departure, every noise made me flinch. Every vehicle door closing nearby accelerated my pulse. I altered the door mechanisms, but slumber evaded me. Each groan of my aged resident startled me awake, certain he had come back with the pilfered entrance device before I could install a new bolt. When my cellular device chimed on Friday's dawn, I fixated on Tyler's identification until it ceased. He telephoned 5 additional times that day. I did not respond. What words could I possibly offer to the unfamiliar person bearing my child's visage? Instead, I drove by his residential structure, a dilapidated 2-level building located 6 streets from my abode. His automobile was absent from the parking area. I sat in my 15-year-old Toyota, my hands tightly grasping the steering wheel, deliberating whether to deposit the $200 I had pledged into his postbox. Pardon me, are you seeking someone? I was startled by the voice. A woman in her 50s with an empathetic gaze stood next to my vehicle. I am Tyler Wilson's parent, I stated, lowering my window. Her demeanor shifted immediately. Margaret, I am Linda, the building supervisor. We have conversed previously by phone. Is Tyler present? I inquired, though the response was already known to me. Linda surveyed the surroundings before drawing nearer. He was removed 3 days ago. Hasn't remitted rent for 4 months. She paused. I likely shouldn't disclose this, but individuals were arriving at all times. Disputes concerning funds. The residents voiced grievances. My stomach sank. Did he provide a new mailing location? She shook her head. The apartment was ruined, Margaret. Openings in the plaster, tobacco marks on the floor covering. She touched my arm softly. My apologies. I expressed gratitude and departed. My thoughts racing. Where was he lodging? Who were these individuals seeking money? The inquiries plagued me as I entered the public library's parking area for my voluntary work period. Inside, I automatically placed volumes on shelves, finding solace in their systematic structure. If only existence could be so precisely classified. Imaginary tales and factual accounts, dilemmas with straightforward answers. Hello, Margaret. My companion, Joyce, gestured before my face. That's the 3rd instance you've placed mental health literature in the globe-trotting section. Apologies. I attempted a smile, merely preoccupied. Tyler, once more? She inquired gently, a quality in her voice, a kind comprehension devoid of criticism, shattered the emotional barrier I had constructed. Tears emerged abruptly, discomfitingly. Joyce led me to the staff lounge, seated me, and offered a warm beverage. "Speak to me," she stated plainly. And so I did. The recurrent demands for cash, the contradictory narratives, the fury upon refusal, the absent entry device. My own voice seemed alien, as if relating another's sorrowful tale. Joyce absorbed every word without interjecting. When my account concluded, she clasped my hands. "My sibling battled addiction for a decade and a half," she shared. "Every detail you're recounting, the deception, the hostility, the urgent requirement for funds, it's a classic pattern." "Tyler does not consume illicit substances," I immediately countered. Joyce's gaze was compassionate yet resolute. "Margaret, I identify these behaviors. The individual who arrived at your residence was not your child. It was the dependency cloaked in his appearance. However, a support gathering convenes each Thursday at First Presbyterian," she went on. "For relatives of those grappling with substance challenges, will you accompany me tomorrow?" I wished to decline, to advocate for Tyler, but the recollection of his closed hand striking the wall mere inches from my skull quelled my protests. The subsequent night, I joined a gathering of unfamiliar individuals who quickly felt like kin. Their experiences echoed my own with unsettling precision. Guardians, kin, offspring, changed into cunning outsiders by chemical reliance. A caseworker named Sarah addressed my most profound anxieties directly. Providing money offers no aid. It permits the dependency to persist. Establishing limits is not forsaking them. It is frequently the initial move towards healing. "I've proposed counseling," I mentioned. He becomes enraged. "Refusal to acknowledge is a component of dependency," Sarah clarified. "Numerous individuals require reaching their lowest point prior to embracing assistance." That evening, I reached the most challenging choice of my existence. I composed a message to Tyler, stating I would cease monetary aid, but would be present when he chose to pursue rehabilitation. I blocked his contact on my device and wept myself into slumber, grieving the youth in the sports photograph while dreading the person he had grown into. Friday night discovered me solitary at my kitchen counter, gazing at the lottery coupon I had acquired each week for many years. My modest practice of optimism, a single dollar's worth of fantasy, I precisely indicated 6 digits, the identical sequence I consistently chose. Richard's birth date, our marital anniversary, Tyler's birth date, the day we acquired our initial dwelling, the year I commenced instructing, and my mother's age at her passing. As I enclosed the entry slip in its covering, I pondered if optimism was merely another type of dependency, the unyielding conviction that, defying all probabilities, circumstances would miraculously improve. Saturday's dawn, my regular habit, hot beverage, toasted bread, and the recurrent letdown of verifying my lottery results on television. I reconciled my financial ledger while awaiting the declaration, estimating how many cycles I could extend my retirement income before accessing my modest savings fund. The jovial presenter materialized on screen. I casually observed the digits as they surfaced, not truly paying attention until, "Hold on!" I seized my coupon, my heart rate accelerating. The initial digit corresponded, as did the second, and the third. My fingers quivered as I verified all 6 figures, then rechecked repeatedly. "This cannot be accurate," I murmured to my unoccupied cooking area. Yet, it was all 6 digits. My chosen numbers radiated on the display. The broadcaster verified the grand prize, $47 million. My initial impulse was to telephone Tyler. My digit paused above the unblocking control on my device. Then I recalled his features twisted by anger, his hand mark on my wall, his words labeling me a miserable old lady. If he knew of these funds, the realization struck me with profound impact. Tyler would exhaust every single coin, ruining himself in the course. Regardless of whether his dues were for narcotics, wagering liabilities, or illicit lenders, this unexpected fortune would hasten his downfall. I dedicated the day to investigation, learning that Pennsylvania permitted lottery victors to maintain secrecy by asserting their winnings via legal arrangements. Monday's dawn, I journeyed to a legal practice concentrating on wealth management, situated 2 communities distant, where I was unrecognized. I require complete discretion, I conveyed to the lawyer, a woman with silver hair named Patricia. Can you assure this? She assented, composed and unaffected by my apprehension. Client-attorney confidentiality is paramount. Miss Wilson, how may I assist you? I pushed the winning slip over her workspace. Her gaze broadened slightly, the sole sign she grasped the significance of our shared secret. I must collect this without anyone discovering my identity, I stated. Especially my child. She posed no questions, simply nodded. We will create an anonymous fund, she explained. The lottery board will declare that the Pine Valley Trust secured the reward, not Margaret Wilson. Only the designated managers, myself, and any others you name will be aware of your true self. And this is entirely lawful? I queried. Indubitably. Pennsylvania is among the select states enabling victors to preserve their anonymity. She commenced detailing the procedure, forming the legal entity, assigning administrators, claiming the payout as a single sum versus periodic installments. I departed 3 hours subsequently with a strategy. The capital would be secure, my persona safeguarded. I journeyed homeward, experiencing an odd tranquility, as though I had drawn my first autonomous inhalation in many years. As I steered into my road, the serenity dissolved. A patrol vehicle was parked before my abode, its lights blinking. Officer Reynolds, whom I recognized from local safety gatherings, stood on my entry. Wilson, he greeted, as I hastened up the path. There has been an unauthorized entry. My main door hung open, fragmented near the locking mechanism. Within, my parlor was pillaged, compartments emptied, seating covers torn, even the air circulation grills detached from the partitions. Was anything removed? Officer Reynolds questioned, pen and paper poised. I surveyed the destruction. I do not believe so. I do not store precious items here. Any notion who might have committed this? The query lingered. Could I utter it? Could I vocalize the statements that would formally convert my child from problematic to lawbreaker? Before I could reply, my cellular device vibrated with an unrecognized contact. I responded instinctively. Mother, Tyler's voice, frantic and indistinct. I must meet you instantly. It's a matter of survival. I observed the ruined fragments of my residence, then Officer Reynolds, anticipating my response. No, I declared resolutely. Both to Tyler and internally, I have no idea who would perpetrate such an act. As I terminated the conversation, I understood I had made my resolve. I would shield my offspring from the repercussions of his deeds one final occasion, but I would not yield my existence or my fresh riches to his disorder. When Officer Reynolds eventually departed, assuring heightened surveillance in the vicinity, I sat amidst my parlor's devastation, feeling numb. The winning slip, my fortunate voucher, was securely stored in Patricia's professional vault. Nobody had pilfered anything because there was no object of worth to seize. Nothing, save for my inner calm. My phone vibrated anew, the identical unfamiliar identifier. Tyler, without question. I muted it and commenced the laborious task of reassembling my residence, pushing padding into torn seating, repositioning artwork, clearing shattered fragments. With every item I reinstated, my determination grew. I would refuse to be a casualty, not of Tyler's dependency, not of Richard's desertion, nor of my own misdirected parental remorse. As I gathered fragments of my cherished teacup into a receptacle, another communication arrived from Joyce. The public library just contacted me, she announced. You failed to appear for your duties. And you never miss without notifying us. Are you well? I hadn't even recalled it was my day for voluntary service. Someone entered my home unlawfully, I conveyed, my tone more composed than anticipated. Oh my goodness, I am coming over. No, I am all right. Truly, Margaret Wilson. I will be there in 10 minutes with food and a container of fermented grape juice, and I will not accept refusal. Faithful to her promise, Joyce appeared with Oriental cuisine and a type of red drink. She gasped at the remaining disorder, but posed no inquiries as she assisted me in completing the tidying. We dined at my kitchen counter, the beverage easing my speech. I believe it was Tyler, I admitted. But I did not inform the authorities, Joyce assented, unfazed. What action will you take next? I am uncertain, I replied truthfully. Then, making an instant choice to confide in her. Joyce. Something further occurred, something significant. But you must swear not to reveal it to anyone. Her gaze broadened as I recounted the jackpot victory and the financial arrangement. When I concluded, she emitted a soft sound of astonishment. 47 million, she whispered. And you're not informing Tyler? I cannot, I stated plainly. It would devastate him. The following morning, I met with Patricia once more. We completed the anonymous fund details, with her as the principal manager. The Pine Valley Trust officially claimed the lottery award, choosing the single payment of $29.3 million after deductions. Patricia assisted me in opening a new financial account under a limited liability company, distinct from my private assets. We devised a cautious investment approach to guarantee the main sum stayed intact while producing revenue. Regarding your child? She inquired thoughtfully. Do you wish to incorporate any provisions for him? I paused. Not immediately. Not yet. But I'd like to reserve a segment that could potentially assist him later for therapy or learning. Should conditions evolve. She nodded, taking down information. And for yourself, any instant aspirations? For the first time, I reflected on what this unexpected prosperity signified for me individually. My entire grown life had been characterized by devotion to Tyler, to my pupils, to everyone except myself. I would like to refurbish my residence, I finally articulated. Nothing lavish, just maintenance. I've postponed, and perhaps, a journey somewhere. Miss Wilson, Patricia remarked softly, you are able to envision grander things. That afternoon, I navigated my way home along a well-known path, but observed my district with fresh perception. My modest dwelling, with its flaking color and drooping entryway, could undergo a complete change. I could relocate anywhere, accomplish anything. The potential was overwhelming. As I entered my street, my recently discovered positive outlook vanished. Tyler was on my veranda, striking the recently fixed entrance. I parked opposite, my pulse racing. He had not yet noticed me. I could depart, check into a lodging, completely evade this encounter, but evasion would resolve nothing. Eventually, I would be compelled to confront him. I advanced cautiously. My vehicle keys gripped tightly between my digits. Like a defensive object, Tyler spun around at the noise of my steps. His vision was bloodshot, his attire disheveled. Mother, he uttered, his voice faltering. I've attempted to contact you for several days. My mobile device was experiencing difficulties, I falsely stated. Preserving space between us. May we converse? He indicated the entry. Inside, I would rather speak here. I stayed on the pavement, prepared to escape if required. His countenance darkened briefly before he compelled a grin. I apologize for our last interaction. I was under pressure. Not myself, but I am seeking assistance now. I pledge. His statement seemed practiced, insincere. I am pleased to learn that, I responded cautiously. I have this employment meeting. He eagerly pressed on. A truly hopeful role, but I need appropriate attire, you understand. Just a modest advance. $500 for a proper outfit. $500. Previously, that would have appeared an unattainable amount to part with. Now, it was insignificant. But this situation transcended mere currency. Tyler, I articulated, my voice more resolute than I felt. I cannot continue this. His expression became rigid. Unable or unwilling. Both, I conceded. I care for you deeply, but I cannot persist in fostering actions that harm us both. For an instant, fury ignited in his gaze, the identical fury I had witnessed before he struck my wall. Then, unexpectedly, his posture sagged. Please, Mother, he murmured. I am in dire straits. Despite all, my heart yearned for him. Could one final opportunity truly cause damage? $500, I declared eventually. But we meet at the coffee shop tomorrow and discuss obtaining genuine assistance for you. His alleviation was evident. Thank you. You will not regret this. As I observed his departure, I questioned if I already did. The popular coffee establishment hummed with early travelers when Tyler arrived, cleanly shaven and dressed in his single, respectable collared garment. I nearly failed to recognize him. This was the child I recalled, not the unpredictable outsider from my parlor. You appear healthy, I stated carefully, as he took a seat opposite me. Feeling improved, he responded with a shy grin. I've been attending certain gatherings, getting my thoughts in order. Gatherings? What sort of gatherings? He stirred his beverage, his gaze lowered. N.A., Narcotics Anonymous. I should have informed you earlier, but I felt embarrassed. The admission astonished me. He had never acknowledged substance use previously, always vehemently rejecting it when I proposed it. For how long? I inquired, my voice scarcely audible above the cafe's din. It commenced during university, merely tablets for academic pressure, you comprehend. Then it intensified. He looked up, his eyes shining. I've been sober for 14 days now. It's not a great deal, but it's a beginning. I yearned intensely to trust him. The fragility in his demeanor seemed sincere. His remorse appeared authentic. The employment meeting is legitimate, he proceeded. An introductory role at a coverage firm. Nothing fancy, but it's respectable labor with advantages. He produced a printed electronic message verifying the discussion. It's tomorrow at 20. I just need to appear suitable. I gently pushed a sealed paper across the surface. $500. As agreed. He accepted it, his hands quivering slightly. I will reimburse you, Mother. Every single cent. I'm not concerned with the funds, Tyler. My focus is on your recovery. I understand. He extended his arm over the table and clasped my hand. I am making an effort, truly trying this occasion. Throughout the subsequent 3 weeks, Tyler transformed into the child I had yearned for all this time. He telephoned consistently just to connect, never requesting funds. He secured the insurance employment and proudly displayed his initial earnings. He delivered evening meals on Sundays, assisted in repairing my dripping water outlet, and openly discussed his healing difficulties. One 24-hour period at a time, he would declare, reiterating the NA principle he asserted to have adopted. I started to unwind, to feel optimistic. Perhaps the unauthorized entry had been perpetrated by another individual. Perhaps reaching his lowest point had finally jolted him into alteration. Possibly, I could eventually inform him about the lottery prize and even establish a fund for his benefit. We established a pleasant pattern. I meticulously preserved my humble way of life, undertaking only essential renovations to my home. A fresh roof, modernized water pipes, nothing that would draw undue attention. One Sunday night, as Tyler assisted me with cleaning crockery post-meal, he casually remarked, I observed Mr. Abernathy acquired a new luxury vehicle, quite elaborate for a former school administrator. His offspring is a medical professional in Boston, I responded. I believe it was a celebratory present. Regarding automobiles, Tyler proceeded. Yours is, what, 15 years old? Have you ever considered an improvement? I shifted the topic, but the query remained unsettling. Had he detected something? Was he probing for details? The next Wednesday, I returned prematurely from food shopping, having overlooked my inventory. As I silently stepped through the rear entrance, I detected activity in my sleeping area. Tyler stood by my chest of drawers, rummaging through my ornament container. He had not heard my arrival. What are you engaged in? I inquired. He leaped, almost dropping the small spherical ear ornaments Richard had gifted me on our 5th marital celebration. Goodness, Mother, you frightened me. Why are you inside my private sleeping space? My tone was remarkably stable. I was searching for pain relief, he quickly stated. Headache medication in my adornment container? His demeanor changed. the facade of the dutiful child faltering for a mere moment. I imagined perhaps you possessed one of those pill organizers, the ornamental variety. It was a weak fabrication, but I feigned acceptance. Pain relievers are in the washroom cupboard, always have been. That evening, after Tyler departed, I sat at my kitchen counter, fixated on my device. Joyce responded on the second vibration. "I require counsel," I stated without introduction, "and perhaps lodging for a few days." Joyce's spare chamber served as my haven for the weekend. I informed Tyler I was visiting a past educational associate in Philadelphia, gaining opportunity to contemplate and strategize. "Something isn't correct," I confided to Joyce during Saturday's early coffee. "He is performing a part, the ideal child, but I observed him searching my sleeping quarters." Joyce's spouse, a former investigator named Frank Williams, joined us. "Margaret, I do not wish to intrude, but have you thought about installing surveillance devices?" The notion appalled me. Initially, observing my own offspring felt improper, but then I recalled the pillaged parlor, the handmark on my partition, the absent entry device. "I know an individual who sets up protective networks," Frank proceeded. "Unobtrusive ones. I could contact him." Monday's early hours, while Tyler was at his occupation, 2 small recording devices were placed in my parlor and corridor, reachable via a protected application on my mobile. The technician also enhanced my domestic safety network and affixed new locking mechanisms. "Mother, you're exhibiting excessive suspicion," Tyler remarked when he observed the protection firm's display in my garden that night. "This locality is entirely secure. Convey that to whoever unlawfully entered last month," I retorted calmly. He recoiled nearly imperceptibly. "Indeed. Valid observation." The technician had positioned the cameras thoughtfully, one in the parlor observing the entrance, another in the passageway, leading to my sleeping area and workspace, but none in personal zones such as bathing facilities or sleeping rooms. I sought proof, not intrusion. For 3 days, no atypical activity appeared on the recordings. Tyler came for an evening meal on Thursday, acting as the considerate child he had recently transformed into. I started to question my misgivings, pondering if I was perceiving issues where none truly existed. Then Friday's dawn, my mobile device notified me of activity at my abode. On the display, Tyler unlatched my main entrance with the access tool I had never provided him. He proceeded deliberately through the parlor to my home workspace, where he systematically examined my documents. I observed, my heart racing, as he captured images of my financial summaries, coverage papers, and the records for my retirement scheme. He spent almost 40 minutes investigating before departing, meticulously securing the entrance behind him. With trembling fingers, I contacted Patricia. "I require an additional level of security," I informed her. "My child is seeking monetary details." She organized for a financial auditor and a private detective to convene with us that afternoon. The investigator, Michael Reeves, was a former federal agent with a composed manner that instantly calmed me. "Based on your account, Miss Wilson, your son is seeking valuables?" he clarified. "The inquiry is, why?" "He needs funds," I stated plainly. "For illicit substances?" Michael probed. "I believed so, but now I am uncertain." "He asserts to be in healing, employed at a coverage firm," Michael interjected softly. "Have you confirmed his occupation?" I stared at him. He presented me with a wage slip. "But would you object if I investigated that?" Michael inquired, along with his recent involvements and connections. I paused only momentarily before assenting. Whatever Tyler was entangled in, I needed to ascertain. While Michael initiated his inquiry, the financial expert assisted me in constructing an unassailable safeguard around my lottery prize. We transferred investments into more robust frameworks, establishing further nominal entities and funds that would be practically untraceable to Margaret Wilson. 3 days later, Michael requested an immediate discussion. His demeanor was serious as he arranged pictures across Patricia's meeting surface. "Miss Wilson, I regret to inform you your son is not employed at any insurance company," he commenced. "He has been spending his time at betting venues and associating with these persons. He indicated images of Tyler with two stern-faced males outside a drinking establishment. These individuals are recognized associates of Anthony Castellano, an illicit moneylender operating in Pittsburgh's Southern District. My abdomen tightened. An illegal lender. Based on our observation and sound recordings from these gatherings, Tyler is profoundly indebted, exceeding $50,000. He has assured his lenders he can obtain the funds from you. But I do not possess that sum, I objected. At least they are unaware that I do. Michael pushed another image across the surface. Tyler seated in his vehicle, on his mobile. This was captured yesterday. We managed to record the conversation. He activated a playback device. Tyler's voice filled the space. The elderly woman must have wealth concealed somewhere. She's altered recently. New covering on the dwelling. Improved attire. If I cannot locate where she's keeping it. A brief silence. Perhaps an unfortunate event would be less complicated. Her existence coverage should settle my obligation to you. The statement struck me like tangible impacts. My child was considering what? Intimidating me into providing him funds? Or something more dire? Miss Wilson, Michael stated softly. Given this proof, I emphatically suggest pursuing a protective order. I shook my head, still absorbing the disclosure. Is this sufficient for law enforcement to intervene? Regrettably, no. It is troubling, but it is not a direct menace or a plot that would hold up in a judicial setting. Michael leaned in. But we can construct a more robust argument while safeguarding your well-being. I journeyed homeward in a daze, the audio repeating endlessly in my thoughts. The child I had nurtured, the individual for whom I had given up all, was contemplating inflicting injury upon me for financial gain. That evening, solitary in my residence with new securing devices and surveillance, I reached a resolve. I would no longer be inactive, anticipating Tyler's subsequent action. Whatever malevolent forces propelled him dependency, wagering, despair, I needed to shield us both from their ruin. The next day, I would commence my counteroffensive. Dr. Elena Martinez inclined forward in her seat, her gaze mild yet inquisitive. Recount what Tyler uttered on the recording. I reiterated the phrases that had troubled me for days, my voice barely a murmur. The peer assistance assembly had disbanded 20 minutes prior, leaving only Dr. Martinez and myself in the religious building's lower level. And how does that affect you? She inquired. I laughed with bitterness. How does it affect me that my offspring is contemplating injuring me for coverage funds, devastated, petrified, and yet, somehow, still concerned for his well-being? Dr. Martinez assented. That is the paradox every guardian in your predicament encounters. You concurrently dread your child and dread for their safety. I am unsure what course of action to take, I confessed. A part of me wishes to challenge him, but another part fears the potential outcomes if I do. Your apprehension is well-founded, she stated. With such profound dependency, particularly when complicated by wagering liabilities, uncertainty is the sole constant. She paused, pondering. What assets do you possess at this moment? I considered the millions held in accounts under the Pine Valley Trust, assets that could alleviate Tyler's immediate monetary difficulties, but would probably hasten his ruin. I have some reserves, I cautiously replied. And supportive companions, a legal representative. You require a methodical strategy, Dr. Martinez declared. From your descriptions, Tyler has demonstrated intensifying behaviors of deceit, encroachment on personal space, and now possible menaces. This is not solely dependency. It is something more intricate. What do you imply? Substance reliance is undeniably a central element, yet the deliberate character of his conduct implies potential coexisting challenges. The Tyler who examines your documents and talks of mishaps with illicit lenders is not the identical Tyler who appears with food and repairs your water tap. Both are disguises he adopts to obtain his requirements. Her statements struck me with profound understanding. The child I've observed in recent weeks isn't authentic, is he? The dependency has become his chief connection, she tenderly clarified. Every other aspect, including his bond with you, is secondary to sustaining it. I remained quiet, internalizing this harsh reality. Finally, I queried, "Therefore, what action do I take now?" "Firstly, safeguard yourself physically, emotionally, financially. Then, contemplate a formalized intervention with skilled assistance." She presented me with a small paper. "This agency excels in urgent interventions for scenarios akin to yours. They collaborate with public safety officials when necessary." That night, I dialed the provided contact. The crisis expert, David Keller, attentively heard my narrative, posing direct inquiries about Tyler's conduct, his financial obligations, and the possible dangers. "Mrs. Wilson, what you are detailing is not merely a child requiring aid," he stated forthrightly. "This is an individual deeply involved in potentially perilous circumstances. We must address this as both a dependency intervention and a safety concern." Over the subsequent 2 days, a strategy materialized. David gathered a group, comprising a substance abuse therapist, a protection expert, and a legal representative. Utilizing a portion of my lottery prize, subtly directed through the fund, I arranged a spot for Tyler at a residential care center specializing in co-occurring conditions. Concurrently, Michael Reeves persisted with his observation, recording Tyler's increasingly frantic encounters with those he owed. The protection squad installed further recording devices around my land and supplied me with an emergency button linked directly to law enforcement. "We are accumulating proof," Michael clarified during our routine update, "but we are also making ready for immediate action if required." The night preceding the scheduled intervention, I sat in my cooking area, unable to rest, gazing at vintage pictures of Tyler. His initial baseball match, high school completion, the early university period before everything deteriorated. When had I forfeited him? Could I reclaim him? My phone vibrated with a message from Joyce. "You are making the correct choice. Remain resilient. I am present." Regardless of the outcome, as daylight appeared, I made a conclusive call to the intervention group. "I am prepared," I informed David. "Let us bring my child back." The meticulously arranged strategy commenced at 10 in the morning. I waited at a safeguarded spot while the intervention group approached Tyler at his present dwelling, a roadside inn on Pittsburgh's periphery. They would offer him 2 alternatives: enter therapy at once, or confront the judicial repercussions of his deeds, including the proof we had collected regarding his menaces. At 10:43, my phone displayed David's contact. "Mrs. Wilson," he stated, his tone strained. "There's been an unforeseen issue. Tyler was not at the inn. According to his cohabitant, he departed last night, expressing a need to resolve matters with his parent definitively." My circulatory fluid chilled. What does that imply? "We are uncertain. But given the situation, we have alerted law enforcement. They are dispatching a patrol vehicle to your residence now for inspection." I did not hear the remainder. My protection application had just transmitted a notification: movement detected at my main entrance. On my mobile display, I observed as Tyler struck my door, then attempted the windows. He was solitary, restless, continuously checking behind himself. Unable to gain entry, he went back to his automobile and extracted an item from the boot: a pry bar. With trembling digits, I activated the emergency alert. Blue and crimson illuminations pulsed through the residential road as 2 police vehicles converged on my home. On my mobile display, I observed Tyler halt mid-action, pry bar in hand, as officers approached with firearms ready. "Release the implement and position your hands visibly," an officer ordered. For a single horrifying instant, Tyler appeared prepared to flee, or, more gravely, to resist. Then, his shoulders sagged. The pry bar struck the earth with a clang. I watched, my heart thumping, as they restrained my child and placed him in the rear of a law enforcement vehicle. Another official recovered an object from Tyler's car, a large fabric bag that he handled with clear circumspection. My phone vibrated. "Mrs. Wilson, this is Officer Ramirez. We have detained an individual attempting to force entry into your dwelling. Can you attend the precinct to provide testimony?" 40 minutes later, I occupied a stark interrogation chamber facing Detective Sarah Lombard, a woman of middle age with empathetic eyes and a pragmatic disposition. Mrs. Wilson, I recognize this is challenging, she commenced, but I must inquire, do you desire to pursue legal action against your child? For what precisely was he taken into custody? I asked, my tone remarkably composed. Attempted unlawful entry, ownership of breaking and entering implements, and she paused. Possession of an unregistered weapon and a regulated chemical. The receptacle in his car contained a pistol, approximately 4 ounces of a narcotic, and various prescribed pharmaceuticals. My inhalation hitched. A firearm? Was it prepared? Yes. Detective Lombard's expression softened somewhat. There is more. We discovered adhesive tape, plastic restraints, and rubber hand coverings. Considering these articles combined with prior menaces recorded by your private investigator, we are also contemplating indicting him for attempted abduction or more severe offenses. She pushed a paper across the table. These are the possible indictments and penalty directives. First-degree forced entry alone carries 5 to 20 years. The armaments charge adds an additional 5 to 10. The narcotic possession with apparent distribution intent is 3 to 7 years. If we pursue the attempted abduction charge, that is a further 10 to 25 years. He faces many decades incarcerated, Mrs. Wilson. The official depiction of my son's apparent scheme sent a chill through my core. This was not merely a frantic request for funds or an chemically induced error. This was pre-planned. I wish to see him, I stated. Detective Lombard assented. He has been documented and placed in a temporary detention area. I should caution you, he is experiencing withdrawal from something, most likely a stimulant. He may not be acting typically. He hasn't been himself for an extended period, I responded. They conducted me to a viewing chamber with a reflective barrier overlooking a compact discussion space. Tyler sat at a metallic surface, restrained, his leg twitching restlessly. His gaze darted about the enclosure, and he regularly wiped perspiration from his brow despite the room's coolness. May I converse with him privately? I inquired. I cannot permit that, Detective Lombard declared. But we can bring him in here with uniformed personnel present. Moments later, Tyler was escorted in. He appeared somewhat smaller, lessened by the vibrant uniform and the stark artificial illumination. Upon seeing me, his countenance rapidly shifted through astonishment, fury, and a degree of humiliation before settling into a guarded impassivity. Mother, he uttered, his tone rough. You must secure my release. This is entirely an error. I examined his visage, the features I had recognized from his earliest moments in this existence. The face that once brightened upon my entry, that furrowed in focus over academic tasks, that radiated joy at ceremonies and sporting events. Was it an error when you forced entry into my dwelling last month? Or when you investigated my monetary records? Or when you conversed about orchestrating an unfortunate event for me with your illicit lending associates? His gaze broadened. You've been observing me? I've been safeguarding my own interests. My voice remained composed, though internally I was trembling, just as I am endeavoring to safeguard you presently, by having me apprehended? He forcefully struck his restrained wrists on the surface. Some kind of defense? Indeed? Tyler, you arrived at my residence with a firearm, illicit substances, and binding devices? I asked. What was your intention? To intimidate me into providing you funds? To injure me for coverage? To make me vanish? His features distorted. I would not have harmed you. I merely required influence. They will end my life if I do not settle my debt. Who? The illegal lenders? He nodded despondently. I owe them $57,000. The accrued charges continue to mount. They granted me 3 days to pay. Or, he gestured across his neck. So you determined that menacing your parent was the answer? I could not conceal the anguish in my tone. I was frantic, he exclaimed, then lowered his voice as an official advanced. I speculated perhaps you possessed reserves, retirement funds, something I could utilize as security. And the weapon? The narcotics? The firearm was for defense. The drugs. He averted his gaze. I needed something to instill bravery in me. We remained in quietude. The chasm separating us was deeper than ever. My child, my cherished son, had transformed into an individual I could not identify. Someone prepared to terrify his own parent to sustain his dependencies and settle his liabilities. I am not providing a bond, I stated at last, but I will assist you. His head lifted sharply. How? I have secured a spot for you at the Valley Ridge Recovery Facility. If the magistrate concurs with court-mandated therapy instead of incarceration, you can proceed there directly. Rehabilitation? He scoffed. I do not require that. You arrived at my dwelling with a stimulant and a prepared firearm, I interjected. You are facing many years in confinement. Treatment is your most favorable alternative, and I have utilized every connection I possess to make it accessible to you. And if I decline? I rose, more composed than I had felt in months. Then you will confront the repercussions of your deeds without my assistance. I love you, Tyler, but I will no longer facilitate your self-undoing. As I pivoted to depart, he exclaimed, Mother, wait. I halted, my hand on the entry handle. How did you manage to pay for Valley Ridge? He inquired with suspicion. That establishment demands an immense sum. I glanced back at my child, frantic, yet still calculating. I possess assets of which you are unaware, I stated plainly, and they will aid your recovery, not sustain whatever is ruining you. I exited, leaving Tyler observing my departure, confusion replacing the cunning in his expression for the initial time in years. 6 weeks elapsed with Tyler in Valley Ridge's Protected Recovery Center. The judiciary had consented to therapy in place of immediate legal action, with accusations suspended pending successful completion of the curriculum. His collaboration with officials concerning the illicit lending scheme had facilitated this arrangement. The public prosecutor initially hesitated at the concept, given the gravity of the accusations, but Michael Reeves and Patricia had orchestrated an efficient approach. Tyler supplied crucial data about Castellano's unlawful loan enterprise, which law enforcement had sought to dismantle for years. The district lawyer approved the alternative program after Tyler's assistance resulted in 3 prominent detentions. The agreement was not mild. Tyler would still confront lessened indictments upon finishing therapy, probably leading to supervised release instead of imprisonment, and he would stay under judicial oversight for an extended period. A single failed substance examination would dispatch him directly to confinement to face the initial accusations. I obtained weekly advancement updates from his guides. The inaugural month was arduous. Cleansing from various chemicals, confronting the scale of his wagering dependency, and addressing the legal ramifications of his conduct. He declined to meet me for the initial 3 weeks, citing embarrassment. According to his mental health professional, in the 7th week, I received a communication from Dr. Harriet White, Tyler's principal therapist. Mrs. Wilson, Tyler has asked for a family meeting, she conveyed. He is prepared to accept responsibility for his deeds towards you. Would you be inclined to partake? The subsequent Saturday, I navigated through Valley Ridge's expansive estate, past cultivated areas cared for by inhabitants, and contemplative walkways meandering through venerable oak growths. For $3,000 daily, settled confidentially via the Pine Valley Trust, it furnished the finest dependency therapy on the eastern seaboard. Dr. White greeted me in the waiting zone. Before you encounter Tyler, I wish to ready you, she stated, guiding me to her workspace. The defensive barrier of refusal has fractured, and he is confronting the complete repercussions of his deeds, perhaps for the initial time in years. Is this authentic? I queried with hesitation. Or is it a trick? She weighed the inquiry with precision. In dependency therapy, we are constantly vigilant for deception, but Tyler has exhibited consistent behavioral indicators of sincere therapeutic participation. That acknowledged, healing is not a straightforward path. There will be regressions. What should I anticipate today? Tyler desires to make restitutions, a component of his 12-step program. He will recognize particular damages he has inflicted upon you. Your function is merely to attend, neither to forgive nor to condemn. She paused. Can you achieve that? I assented, though doubt assailed me. After years of Tyler's falsehoods, could I believe anything he uttered? The familial discussion area was luminous and inviting, with plush seating and scenic artworks. Tyler sat awaiting, clad in denim trousers and a simple azure pullover. Informal attire. Not the institutional garments I had foreseen. He appeared simultaneously younger and older than his 30 years, clearer vision, yet more pronounced lines of concern. "Mother," he stated, rising awkwardly as I entered. "I appreciate your presence." We sat opposite each other, while Dr. White occupied a seat slightly apart from us. Tyler cleared his vocal passage. "I have arranged certain statements to deliver." He extracted a folded document from his clothing. "A portion of my healing involves making amends, which begins with admitting my actions." He unfurled the paper with quivering fingers. "I exploited you monetarily, leveraging your affection to finance my dependencies. I fabricated consistently. I encroached upon your personal space by investigating your dwelling. I pilfered your extra entrance device. I forcibly entered your residence. I jeopardized your well-being by introducing unlawful individuals into your existence." His voice fractured. "And I intended to menace you for funds." That evening, I was apprehended. Each confession felt like a tangible impact. Hearing the catalog of disloyalties articulated so straightforwardly rendered them more concrete somehow. "The most grievous aspect," Tyler proceeded, "is that I persuaded myself these were not genuine injuries because you were indebted to me as my parent. I recounted terrible falsehoods about you to myself. That you had failed me. That you were deserving of it." He looked up, his gaze moist. "The reality is, you were the sole individual who never abandoned me, and I repaid that with unkindness." I remained absolutely motionless, fearing that any motion might break this instant of stark candor. "I do not anticipate absolution," he stated. "I am not requesting that. I simply desire for you to comprehend that I now clearly perceive my actions, and I am devoted to transformation." When he concluded, quietude pervaded the chamber. Dr. White assented encouragingly towards me. "I appreciate your sincerity," I finally articulated. "I wish to believe you are altering, but you are uncertain you can." Tyler completed my thought. "I understand. Confidence must be gained." Something in his acceptance, the absence of self-defense or deceit, felt distinct from all our prior exchanges. "Inform me about your therapy," I stated, shifting the focus. "What are you acquiring?" For the subsequent 60 minutes, Tyler spoke with remarkable perception about his co-occurring conditions: substance dependency disorder and wagering compulsion, compounded by melancholy and potential mood instability. He detailed his daily regimen of counseling, collective meetings, and meditative exercises. He discussed confronting the devastation of his decisions without fabricating justifications. As our meeting drew to a close, Dr. White inquired, "Is there anything further either of you wishes to discuss today?" Tyler wavered. "There is a single matter." He turned to me. "Mother, I am aware you are concealing something significant." Something shifted before my apprehension. "You possessed funds for this establishment, for the private detective." My heartbeat accelerated. How much had he deduced? "Did you dispose of the residence?" he asked. "Liquidate retirement savings? Whatever it is, I am anxious you have jeopardized your prospects to aid me." The paradox almost elicited laughter from me. After years of pursuing my funds, he was now concerned about my monetary stability. "I possess assets that are being managed conscientiously," I stated with care. "That is all you require to understand currently." "But Tyler," I interjected softly, "a component of healing is embracing limits. My monetary status is a boundary I am establishing." He appeared prepared to dispute, but halted himself. "You are correct," he acknowledged after a pause. As I drove homeward, I replayed the conference in my thoughts. Tyler's transformation appeared authentic, yet past events had instilled prudence. True rehabilitation would necessitate more than mere statements. It would demand unwavering conduct over an extended period. Still, for the initial time in many years, I permitted myself to experience something perilous. Optimism. The meeting space of Mercer and Hodge's legal practice hummed with motion as Patricia directed us through the concluding documentation establishing the New Dawn Charitable Trust. After 9 months of preparation, my aspiration was materializing. Once you affix your signature to these papers, Patricia elucidated, the organization will be formally recognized as a 501c3 nonprofit entity with an initial contribution of $15 million from the Pine Valley Trust. I signed where designated, experiencing a sense of direction I had not felt since my instructional career. The New Dawn charity would offer therapy grants for individuals with dependency who could not access superior care, finance investigations into more potent healing methodologies, and assist households impacted by substance misuse. Congratulations, Margaret, stated Dr. Martinez, who had joined our council as a medical consultant. This institution will alter innumerable existences. To preserve my confidentiality, I would officially function solely as a council member and program administrator, not as the main benefactor. The corporate design crafted by Patricia's group successfully concealed the link between the lottery prize and the organization. As our assembly ended, Dr. Martinez lingered. "Have you considered what you will convey to Tyler?" she inquired. "He is concluding his curriculum in 3 weeks." Tyler had now been at Valley Ridge for almost 11 months. His recuperation, though not devoid of difficulties, had been extraordinary. He had sustained abstinence, participated completely in counseling, and even initiated guiding newer patients. His therapists documented a sincere metamorphosis in his cognitive processes and conduct. "I am still uncertain," I conceded. "A part of me desires to inform him of all. Another part remains circumspect. Confidence is re-established incrementally," she reminded me. "You are correct to advance with prudence." The subsequent Sunday, I saw Tyler at Valley Ridge. These encounters had become fortnightly ceremonies. No longer supervised counseling meetings, but progressively typical discussions between parent and progeny. We traversed the facility's landscaped walkways, fall foliage crackling underfoot. Tyler appeared robust, clear-eyed, stable, engaged in a manner he had not been for ages. "I've been accepted into the transitional living arrangement," he announced. 3 more weeks here, then I will move to Oakwood House. It is organized communal living with ongoing therapy, but I will be capable of working part-time." "That is magnificent," I stated genuinely. "Have you considered what type of occupation you would prefer?" He assented. The career advisor assisted me in securing a role at a printing business. Entry-level, naturally, but they collaborate with individuals in healing. He paused. "It is not prestigious, but it is honorable labor." "I am proud of you," I declared, astonished by the tears that abruptly welled. "Truly proud." We sat upon a rock seat overlooking a modest water feature. A pleasant quietude extended between us, so unlike the strained, deceptive exchanges of prior times. "There is something I must convey to you," Tyler finally uttered. "I've gained admission to a local educational institution. Just a single course to begin. An introduction to dependency guidance. My therapist believes I might possess a talent for it once I advance further in my own recuperation." "That is a significant progression," I stated deliberately. "What about the printing occupation?" "I will do both. Instruction 2 evenings weekly, employment during daylight hours." He looked directly at me. "I am not requesting funds from you, Mother. I've sought government assistance, and I've been accumulating from my vocational program here." His pronouncement, so divergent from our interactions over the past 10 years, took me by surprise. "I never imagined I would articulate this," Tyler proceeded, "but being apprehended was the most beneficial event that ever occurred to me. It compelled me to cease evading myself." He rotated the AA token he now carried, signifying 10 months of abstinence. "I have a considerable journey ahead, but for the initial time, I genuinely believe I can achieve it." I reached for his hand, and he gently pressed mine. "There is something more," he stated with reservation. "I learned about a new charitable organization that launched in Pittsburgh, the New Dawn Foundation. They seek peer assistance professionals, individuals in recuperation who can collaborate with fresh patients." His gaze illuminated with intent. I won't meet the requirements for at least 12 months, but eventually, perhaps. My pulse raced. You are keen on being employed there? Not merely employment. It is the type of establishment where I could genuinely affect change, utilize my background to assist others. He shrugged self-consciously. Likely an unrealistic aspiration, but it provides me with an objective to pursue. The paradox was nearly crushing. My child wished to be employed by the organization I had established, the organization financed by wealth I still had not disclosed to him. As we returned towards the center, Tyler abruptly paused. Mother, may I inquire about something? It has been troubling me. I stiffened, preparing for queries about my financial state. Have you been attending to your own needs? He asked instead. Throughout this period, your concentration has been on me and my difficulties. But what about you? What do you desire for your existence? The inquiry surprised me. In all our shared years, Tyler had never asked about my aspirations, my hopes. I am working on that, I replied honestly. For such an extended duration, I defined myself by my function as instructor, parent, caregiver. Now I am uncovering who Margaret Wilson is beyond those capacities. I would like to become acquainted with that Margaret. 48 hours later, I was in Patricia's workplace, having reached my conclusion. I wish to establish a distinct fund for Tyler, I informed her. But with stipulations. Together, we devised a formalized endowment that would activate only after Tyler sustained 5 years of confirmed abstinence. Even then, allocations would be restricted to learning, medical attention, or genuine commercial venture, never liquid funds that could facilitate a return to dependency. This equilibrates security with prospect, Patricia noted. But when will you inform him about the jackpot? Not yet, I stated resolutely. Recuperation remains too delicate. For the present, let him concentrate on constructing his existence from scratch. The organization is providing him with direction, an aim to strive for that holds more value than currency. As I exited Patricia's office, my mobile device vibrated with a message from Joyce. Evening meal tonight. Frank and I have an idea for that continental journey we've been considering. I smiled, responding, I'll supply the fermented grape juice. For the initial time in many decades, I was constructing an existence centered on my own contentment rather than the requirements of another. The lottery had granted me monetary liberty, but the true abundance lay in recovering my true self. 18 months following his discharge from Valley Ridge, Tyler presented to the gathering at New Dawn Foundation's inaugural public appreciation event as a peer assistance trainee, a role he had secured after 12 months at the halfway residence, succeeded by 6 months of supplementary instruction. He was narrating his personal account to benefactors, therapy specialists, and relatives impacted by dependency. My lowest point was not forfeiting my dwelling or my employment, he stated, his tone unwavering. It was the instant I grasped I had become the sort of individual who would menace his own parent, the sole person who never ceased having faith in me. I observed from the rear of the chamber, my chest constricted with intricate sentiments. Tyler was unaware of my presence as the Foundation's program leader, who operated mainly out of public view. My participation was not anticipated at this more intimate gathering. Healing is not merely about maintaining abstinence, Tyler proceeded. It is about evolving into someone you can honor when you gaze at your reflection. I am still laboring towards that daily. Subsequent to the speeches, I discreetly departed before Tyler could notice me. My hired driver identified me as I provided him my location. Hello, aren't you Tyler Wilson's parent? He inquired, observing me in the rearview reflection. My sibling is in the New Dawn initiative. He states your child is among their most effective peer advisors. Indeed, that is my offspring, I responded, a peculiar sense of accomplishment swelling within me. It must be gratifying to witness his success after all that transpired, I assented, pondering precisely how much this unfamiliar individual comprehended of the entire situation. At my residence, I poured a beverage and telephoned Joyce. He was extraordinary, I informed her. Self-assured, eloquent, genuinely fervent about assisting others. So, when will you inform him? Joyce questioned. About the organization? About the jackpot? I am uncertain, I conceded. The more I delay, the more challenging it becomes. The chance emerged sooner than anticipated. 3 days subsequently, Tyler telephoned, sounding distressed. Mother, may I visit this evening? There is something I must discuss with you. My abdomen tightened with an automatic concern. Is everything satisfactory? Yes. No, I do not know. I simply need to converse with you face to face. He arrived at 7, pacing my parlor precisely as he had years prior when soliciting funds. But this time, his restlessness appeared distinct, bewildered rather than cunning. Mother, something peculiar is occurring at the organization, he commenced. I overheard the chief administrator discussing Margaret's concept and consulting with Margaret regarding initiative choices. They referenced you by name, but when I inquired, everyone became strangely elusive. I sat perfectly still, my heart thumping. This instant had always been unavoidable. Then, yesterday, Tyler proceeded. I was processing benefactor recognitions, and I observed the Pine Valley Trust, listed as the chief contributor. $15 million, the identical fund that covered my therapy. He ceased pacing and looked directly at me. What is transpiring, Mother? How are you linked to all of this? The interval expanded between us, laden with possible repercussions. I could devise an account, preserve the division between my jackpot proceeds and my public persona, or I could at last disclose the facts. Take a seat, Tyler, I stated softly. There is something I must impart to you. For the subsequent 60 minutes, I clarified every detail. The lottery triumph 2 years prior, my choice to keep it private, the anonymous fund, and the establishment of the charitable entity. I presented him with paperwork Patricia had readied for this eventual disclosure. $47 million, he murmured, astounded. Throughout this entire period? Yes. And you did not inform me because when I achieved victory, you were still actively dependent. I gently articulated. You had just forced entry into my dwelling seeking funds. You were involved with illicit lenders. You had conversed about inflicting injury upon me for coverage funds. He winced at each recollection, but did not dispute any point. And after I achieved sobriety during this past 18 months, I wished to be certain the alterations were genuine, not driven by financial gain. I met his gaze firmly. And I desired for you to construct an existence founded on your own endeavors, not an endowment. Tyler rose and walked to the pane, his back facing me. For an extended period, he uttered nothing, his shoulders stiff with strain. I prepared myself for fury, for reproaches, for requirements, the former Tyler re-emerging. When he turned, his countenance was a tempest of opposing feelings. How could you withhold this from me? He insisted, his voice elevating. After all we've endured, the counseling, the truth-telling efforts, you've been deceitful this entire duration. I stayed composed. I was not prepared to inform you yet. There is a distinction between falsehood and preserving discretion while you concentrated on healing. Discretion? He laughed with acrimony. You established an entire entity I've been employed by, and you did not deem that pertinent to disclose to me. Tyler! He paced the area, running fingers through his hair. Do you possess any comprehension of how it feels to discover your entire existence has been engineered? I allowed him to absorb it, observing as he transitioned from wrath to pain to bewilderment. Finally, he ceased his movement. You know what? He stated softly. You were correct. Of all conceivable replies, this was the most unforeseen. What? If I had been aware of those funds back then, it would have been my undoing, he stated plainly. I would have discovered a method to acquire it, used it to demolish myself. He shook his head. Even 6 months prior, I am uncertain I could have coped with the knowledge. Alleviation flowed through me. And now. He paused, reflecting. Now, I simply wish to express gratitude. Not for the wealth. I grasp there are stipulations on that, and there ought to be. He inhaled deeply. Thank you for possessing the bravery to allow me to reach my nadir instead of saving me. Thank you for fashioning something significant from a dreadful circumstance. He returned to the sofa, seating himself nearer this occasion. So, what transpires next? Will you declare yourself the originator of New Dawn? No, I responded. I prefer operating discreetly. The organization transcends my individual role. Tyler assented reflectively. There is just one detail I must ascertain. My role at New Dawn. Did you orchestrate that? Was it an act of benevolence? Absolutely not, I stated with conviction. The recruitment panel is unaware you are my child. You secured that role entirely through your own capabilities. The stress visibly departed from his physique. Good. That is important to me. As Tyler made ready to depart, he paused by the entrance. The endowment you mentioned, the one designated for me that activates after 5 years of abstinence, I do not wish to utilize it then either. What is your intention? I mean, I desire to modify the terms. If I sustain sobriety for 5 years, I would prefer the fund to finance additional therapy grants at New Dawn instead. He smiled faintly. Perhaps when I reach 10 years of clean living, we can reconsider my individual access. By that point, I trust I will have demonstrated my ability to construct my own existence. As I observed him proceed to his humble pre-owned vehicle, acquired with his own accumulated funds from the printing occupation, I felt a burden diminish that I had not even recognized I was bearing. My child was genuinely maturing into his own person, one whose value was not quantified by currency, but by moral uprightness. The apprehension that had plagued me for such an extended period, that the lottery prize would obliterate what remained of my bond with Tyler, had proved baseless. Instead, we had both discovered something significantly more precious than countless dollars: genuine rapport, founded on veracity rather than necessity. And that concludes my prepared statements, I declared, moving from the speaker's stand to unanticipated acclaim. I thank you all for attending today. 5 years had elapsed since I had disclosed the facts to Tyler. Today signified the grand inauguration of the New Dawn Foundation's second recovery establishment, a cutting-edge therapy center specifically designed for individuals with co-occurring conditions, as Tyler had once been. As program administrator, I had dedicated the past 3 years to cultivating the center's empirically supported methodology, collaborating with dependency experts, previous patients, and household members to forge something genuinely transformative. Today, standing before the assembled multitude, I experienced a sensation of fulfillment I had never known previously. Tyler drew near as the attendees dispersed towards the greeting area. At 35, he had developed into an adult I barely recognized from the problematic adolescent he had formerly been. Now the Foundation's peer assistance coordinator, possessing a master's qualification in dependency guidance, he presented himself with calm assurance. "Excellent address, Mother," he stated, embracing me. "Though you neglected to mention that the Family Re-Engagement Initiative was your concept." "Our concept," I corrected. "The most superior aspects at New Dawn have always been cooperative." We proceeded together through the cultivated area designed by inhabitants of our initial institution, past the contemplative maze, and towards the small body of water at the estate's boundary. 5 years abstinent now, Tyler had honored his pledge regarding the endowment, redirecting the funds to establish further therapy grants instead of personally utilizing them. "Have you reached a conclusion?" he inquired as we arrived at the waterside seat. "Regarding retirement." I smiled. "Yes. I am resigning as program administrator next month. Victoria is entirely prepared to assume the role, and then Joyce and I are at last embarking on that European excursion we have been organizing for years. 3 months investigating everything from the Louvre to the Hellenic Islands." I turned to fully face him. "But that is not the major announcement." Tyler elevated an eyebrow expectantly. "I am going public, Tyler. About everything. The jackpot, the organization, our narrative." He appeared astonished. "After all these years of secrecy, what transformed?" "Viewpoint," I stated plainly. "I've understood our experience might aid others contending with dependency within their households. Not the monetary aspect, which was merely an impetus, but the progression from facilitating to sound limits, from apprehension to faith. How will you accomplish it? I am authoring a book. When Patience Expires. Our account from my perspective. I've already communicated with a publishing house. I observed his features meticulously, but I will not proceed without your endorsement. Tyler remained silent for an extended duration, gazing across the expanse of water. Will you incorporate every detail? The menaces? The forced entries? The apprehension? Yes, I replied truthfully, but also the recuperation, the metamorphosis, the rapprochement, the complete odyssey. He assented slowly. Then I believe you should undertake it. Perhaps? He wavered. Perhaps I could furnish a section from my viewpoint. If that would be beneficial, I would appreciate that, I stated, my throat constricted with sudden feeling. As we returned towards the reception area, Tyler inquired, "Have you ever regretted it? Not informing me about the jackpot immediately?" "Never," I responded without hesitation. Currency would have been a meager replacement for what we have constructed instead. Confidence, esteem, authentic bond. "And, regarding absolution?" he softly asked. "Have you truly pardoned me for all I subjected you to?" I pondered the inquiry gravely. Pardoning is not a singular event, Tyler. It has been a progression for both of us. I needed to pardon you for the deceit and menaces. You needed to pardon me for the firm affection that felt like desertion at the moment. And yourself? Have you pardoned yourself for the facilitation? His insight surprised me. I am still addressing that aspect, I conceded. At the gathering, I observed Tyler navigating confidently among benefactors and therapy experts, imparting his proficiency and zeal for recuperation efforts. My child, once consumed by dependency and unlawful behavior, now assisted others in locating their path back from comparable obscurity. Later that night, as I made ready to depart, Dr. Martinez, now the organization's medical leader, joined me on the outdoor space. "I recall when you first arrived at the assistance assembly," she stated, petrified, despondent, convinced you had forfeited your child eternally. "I was certain I had failed him," I concurred, "that all my self-denials had somehow generated his difficulties. And now I gazed across the estate where inhabitants were converging for an evening communal assembly. Now I comprehend that we rescue ourselves. I could not rescue Tyler. He had to accomplish that independently. Just as I had to rescue myself from the cycle of enabling that was ruining us both. The funds altered everything. Did they not?" she inquired. "No," I responded reflectively. "The wealth merely hastened the unavoidable showdown. The genuine transformation originated from discovering my voice, establishing limits, demanding veracity." I smiled. Actions I could have taken without a single coin to my name. As if drawn by our discourse, Tyler approached with a young female I recognized as a fresh advisor. "Mother, this is Emma. She is implementing that familial dialogue framework we devised last year." His tone conveyed unmistakable satisfaction. "Emma, this is my parent, Margaret Wilson, the essence and spirit of the New Dawn Foundation." I extended my hand, but Emma surprised me with an embrace instead. "Thank you," she whispered. "My sibling completed your curriculum last year. You preserved his existence in our household." As she moved away to welcome other attendees, Tyler grinned at my demeanor. "That occurs frequently. You know, individuals whose existences you've influenced without even comprehending it. I gently corrected. Individuals whose existences we've influenced. That night, driving homeward to the unpretentious dwelling I had retained all these years, despite possessing the capacity to reside anywhere, I pondered the expedition that had led us here. From a struggling sole parent to a frightened target to an empowered champion, from a jackpot recipient to a charitable giver to an author, the path had been neither direct nor simple. There had been impediments, instances when Tyler struggled, when former habits threatened to reappear, when confidence remained delicate, but we had persisted, one day at a time, constructing something neither of us could have envisioned during those most somber periods. As I maneuvered into my parking space, My mobile device vibrated with a message from Tyler. Thank you for never abandoning me, even when it entailed releasing control. Love you, Mother. Some abundances, I realized, could not be quantified in millions. Some grand prizes were remunerated in instants like these, in harmony, in objective, and in the serene delight of restored rapport. When endurance depletes, sometimes that is when genuine transformation commences. I appreciate your attention. Remember to subscribe, and please feel free to share your own account in the remarks. Your perspective holds significance.